We're obviously pioneer in the data lakehouse space, huge creators of some of the most successful open source projects with Spark, Delta Lake, and MLflow. Obviously, everybody's curious about, obviously, we've raised sizable sums of money, and obviously we're still pre-IPO. And again, of the 9,000 plus customers, we go from some of the very biggest names that you all know about down to some of the unicorns and smaller sizes of businesses. So we span pretty much every type of business size, every type of business sector, etc. So with that, a little bit about starting your journey to Azure Databricks. This slide's a really, really good high-level illustration of how Azure Databricks provides a unified platform. A couple things I want to shout out just to make sure. This platform is really, really enriched by our relationship with Microsoft, because they enrich it through their support with Power BI for the business intelligence and through Azure Data Factory for data integration. And again, it's a really solid, open and governed platform that we're talking about today. Again, some of the businesses we support in every industry. I probably will talk to marketing, although I love the Minnesota Twins. And John, I know you're from Minnesota and probably maybe a Twins fan. But one of our accounts is the Texas Rangers. They actually spoke on our behalf at our Data and AI Summit back in June, which, by the way, I know it's a little early to start thinking about it, but it's a great event to go to in person in San Francisco or at one of the various world tour stops that we're doing, including the one that's going on as we speak in New York. But they spoke about how they leverage Databricks for Moneyball, amongst other things that they're doing there. And it may be a great logo because they did win the World Series. And, I can't say they won the World Series because they use Databricks, but there is a little bit of correlation there potentially. It may not be causal, but it's definitely correlated. So a couple other of our success stories that are Azure Databricks customers. Obviously, when you look at things like Walmart, you look at things like Starbucks, you look at TD Ameritrade, and you see some of the size and scale of what they're doing. Obviously, when a company like Walmart saves $100 million a year through optimizing their supply chain, reducing spoilage, the ability to produce real-time store-level forecasts accurately, quickly, helps Starbucks optimize their business, and obviously using information to derive new products there. But that's really great. But most companies aren't seeing results like this. And so you have to think about that and say, why? Companies have been focused on data and analytics for years. I mean, if you think about what that means, but people are doing this, but why haven't they been able to get the results that you're seeing some of those companies that we talked about earlier? You think about it, it gets into the data forward enterprise. The data forward enterprise, when you start thinking about it, people are looking at ways to optimize aspect of their business on business operations, whether it's manufacturing, logistics, or supply chain, whether it's customer experience and how do I manage my customers and how do I sell more to my customers, treat them and service them better? How do I develop new products and services and manage that business? How do I improve the workplace productivity that I have? Everybody understands the potential for this and the urgency behind this, but it's really, really hard to do. So when you start thinking about it, for most companies, it's because data and teams are siloed, they're segregated into different systems. As they start trying to drive up the curve to become data forward, they end up in data purgatory. The operating model is expensive, it's timely, it takes a big push to get over, and progress has been made. But in most cases, this complexity and silos still exist. Its fundamental problem is the way data is managed. It's not being used, and it's difficult to solve. The real way forward is the lakehouse, and that solves this, how the silo cease to exist, and data and AI informs every aspect of the business. Again, we talked about the struggles, but really when you start stitching things together, if you think about what most companies have today, is you have a data warehouse. You may have a data lake. You're using orchestration tools to do your data engineering ETL. You may have a variety of different business intelligence platforms. You have a different platform for data science and machine learning. You may use a different platform to support streaming. And then you got to stitch governance on top of all of this. It's really, really hard to bringing all this together. So you have all these different platforms. And in the end, what you're dealing with is silos, which drive operational costs because you may be storing data in multiple places, redundancy, et cetera. You have inconsistent policies on governance, which creates, a lack of trust in the data and the results that you're driving from that data. And lastly, disparate tools that inhibit that cross-team productivity. I may have to have data in multiple places to support my data science organization, but my BI organization may be using a different set, using the same data in a different location and getting a different set of results as a result of that. It's unnecessarily, overall, it's just expensive and complex. And the Lakehouse is the way to resolve that. Our Lakehouse takes a different approach. We start with one platform to store and manage structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. So all your data sits inside the Lakehouse instead of silos. One security and governance model for data access across the entire organization. So by having all the data in one place, it becomes a lot easier to provide that level of governance and security, at which at the same point gives the ability to have trusted data and be able to trust and make business decisions as a result of that. One platform to support multiple personas. Because it's all in one place, I can do, my data engineers can work with my data science and machine learning teams to help them get the features they need to build the models. That data engineering team also can work with the business intelligence folks and the data warehousing people. It's all in one place. I have the ability to bring both my data, my streaming data and my non-streaming data into the same platform. By putting it all in one place, we now have the workloads in one place, and we're able to effectively reduce the silos and get everything to provide productivity. Databricks is the only unified platform to be able to do that. Again, here is a little bit about the openness of the platform. And you can see here we work with a variety of different partners. Actually, again, I'm going to have to talk to marketing, because on the data integration side, one of the bullets, one of the little icons in there is a company called Arceon. We acquired Arceon several weeks ago. The acquisition became final, I believe, on Monday of this week. And they help with change data capture, and they'll be added into the Databricks stack. But as you can see here, there's a variety of different platforms and tools that we work with, in addition to obviously on the Microsoft side with Power BI and Azure Data Factory and fit in as part of that. But again, if you have other partners that you're working with on different aspects, we have the ability to support that and work as part of where we're going with that. The best platform is the Lakehouse. Because if you wanted to build what we put together in the platform as the Azure Databricks Lakehouse, you have to do it with multiple different platforms. So if you wanted to get everything and support all different types of data, you would need to support both data clouds, data warehouses, and maybe a data lake. If you want to have a single experience, you wouldn't be able to do that. Having unified governance across multiple platforms, you wouldn't be able to do. Price performance at scale, obviously you'd be able to do that with the Lakehouse, with Azure Databricks, and not being able to do that across multiple different platforms. The ability to do real-time data would require additional connectivity, whereas you get that out of the box with the Azure Databricks platform. Data sharing. I'm seeing more and more customers in the field wanting to share data back and forth between their customers and themselves. So the ability through Delta Live tables, et cetera, to support data sharing, that's there. And again, multi-cloud, the ability to support Azure as well as some of the other clouds that are out there, the ability to do that. You can do that with Databricks. At this point, Nate, I think it's up for you, because obviously we're going to talk about the thousands of our customers that use Azure Databricks today.
Sounds great. We can roll to the next one there. When we talk about Azure Databricks, we have a unique engineering partnership with Databricks. Databricks is a first-party Microsoft service. So for our customers, what we've done is we've partnered at an engineering level to make things seamless. I'll walk through some of these, what this means, and why it's differentiated from some of the other areas. First, native identity and security and compliance. So we've done a lot of work on the back end to integrate Azure Active Directory with all of Azure Databricks. On other clouds, you have to pay extra for security, and you have to spend a couple weeks setup time. With Azure Databricks, you literally plug in your AD credentials and all your roles, all your permissions, all your groups. They transfer from not just to Data Factory, but to Databricks, to your data lake, to Power BI, and all those personas, and that automatically happens. There's literally nothing you have to do once you set up your Active Directory credentials and pass them through. Two, we also, so that security is huge. Going to number two, critical support, or mission critical support for e-commerce. So your support's included with your price on Azure Databricks. There's no extra support costs. And what we've done is on the back end, we have one support experience. So you don't have to call Databricks for this and Microsoft for this. You call Microsoft. We handle kind of level 1 and level 2 support. On the back end, if it's a level 3 ticket, we'll automatically seamlessly bring that to Databricks, and you would know it's just a ticket at level 3. So one call for support. It's already included with your usage for Azure. The ecosystem, we mentioned this a minute ago, but with the engineers for Azure, for Databricks, they're working hand in hand on a daily basis with our team from Microsoft and integrating Azure Databricks with Azure Data Lake Store, with Azure Data Factory, with Power BI, with all the entire ecosystem of Azure. And on a daily basis, we're looking at that across performance and that. I would argue that on the other clouds, it's much more, Databricks is much more of a hosted platform. There's nobody at some of the other clouds looking to say, hey, how do we make Databricks perform better in a data lake today? And we have teams dedicated to do both that on the Microsoft side and the Databricks side. So that integration is really key. Service integration and rapid onboarding. All your licensing and pricing, there's no licensing or pricing goes to Databricks. Azure Databricks is a first-party Microsoft service. So what that means is across the landscape, it's the same as Windows or SQL to us from a Microsoft and from a customer perspective, fully indemnified and all that. So we've made things super simple. All your, just like you would pay for any of your other Azure bill, all that comes in that way. And that's where we've worked the partnership. And so this is a unique, and the fifth point, this is a unique partnership across engineering customers that give our customers the choice to have the premium Spark product in the platform. So hopefully that helps you where the joint engineering investment is across the landscape. Next slide. So when we look at this, right, you have all your data from your different sources at the bottom. As you go to Data Lake, and Andy did an excellent job of kind of describing this, I would say there's kind of two things that have really opened up this to make the Lakehouse a reality. Number one is that medallion architecture, right? Previous to that, we had a lot of people dumping data in the Data Lake, and then it was coming in all different formats, CSVs, JSON, Excel files, etc. Doing that medallion architecture and turning that into a bronze, a silver, and a gold copy, and using Parquet, also open source, to do that column restore is excellent. And that gives a single copy that everything can access. I think that was problem number one where Data Lakes failed in the past. And number two, the other key thing is Delta. Delta gives that transactional layer to the Data Lake that lets you do ACID-based transactions, upserts and deletes and all those kind of things. And what this allows you to do, those really solve the two legacy problems of Data Lakes that really enabled the Lakehouse. So the Lakehouse on top is really just bringing the right compute to the data. And unlike other cloud platforms that put things in a proprietary format, all of this is open. All of this is open and open source. So any cost optimized compute that can access this data, it really gives customer choice, and I would argue even future-proofs your architecture. Because what we've learned over time is moving data is a high effort, but low value proposition. What this allows you to do is put in an open format, not a proprietary or closed format. And you'll notice that between data engineering and real-time streaming and AI and analytics and SQLanix and data warehouse, you have multiple options between Databricks, and also you can use some of your native tools, because all those are asking a single source of data and you're not making multiple copies across your organization. So hopefully that helps. I did have one other thing you mentioned, but I think, is that the last slide there? Roll forward one more. Yep, just the last thing, just to roll back to the last one, just real quick, because I think this is yours. But the last thing I'll mention is there's a lot of questions around Microsoft Fabric. You don't see that listed here. You'll hear Synapse. And what I would say is Fabric is all built around the Lakehouse, right? And this is where we have to give Databricks an immense amount of credit. They invented the Lakehouse. They invented Delta and open sourced Delta. Well, Microsoft has looked across that landscape and determined that that pattern of the Lakehouse and democratizing data, putting it in an open format, is the absolute right way to go. And Fabric is essentially built on the same Lakehouse that you have here. So I want to give you confidence. All of the things that you're doing in Databricks, we are actually doubling down on our investments with Databricks and integrating it with OneLake to ensure that all those investments go forward with our customers using Azure Databricks. And in the future, if customers want to use Fabric, I think they can. But that's really purely a customer choice, because both will be completely supported. And right, I think this goes to the heart of what the Open Governed Lakehouse does. it gives you customers choice, right? If you want to continue with Databricks, we absolutely encourage that, and we're doubling down our engineering investments to do that. Fabric will be an option for you if you want. If there's another cost optimized compute that comes down in 2 or 3 years, I don't have to go move my data to another platform. If that compute can access data in an open format, we can plug it into it. So I think it really gives you future proofing with your architecture. So we've had a lot of questions around that. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of clarity, and we're happy to answer more in the chat if you have any.
Cool. So let me bring over here. Let's start getting ready to build your lake house. So John, I'm going to turn things over to you right now. How's that?
Great. Can you hear me okay?